Sup nerds? What are we doing today? Well, in December we spent the month trying to go Mythic in Explorer in order to actually have a deck for Pioneer. I mean, it's my logical thinking. If I do well on Explorer, I might do well on Paper Pioneer. So we were doing it in the color red, of course, because we love red. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through the deck list because we got to Mythic. We did, and it was grindy. It was really grindy. So we're gonna talk about it, but we're at least gonna go with the final product that we crossed the finish line with to get into Mythic in mono red. So here it is. Let's start off by looking at the mana base. So we're doing 62 cards in this deck. And as far as the mana base goes, we got some diversity, so I'll explain it. Where do we start? Let's go from the bottom of the color. So we got some colorless, and honestly, that's kind of problematic sometimes because one of our star cards, Torbran, where you at? Torbran, he is triple red. Ouch. So you don't get a play on turn 4 if you have 2 or more colorless lands, obviously. So, you know, I'm trying to mix and match, see how many I want, see what ones I want. Right now we settled on this. 1 Mutable. I would have more if I had the wild cards. Why is Mutable good? Well, because basically it's a very cheap instant creature should you need it. Chump block, or, you know, find a little bit to attack in with if they're out of mana. Honestly, it's a rare occasion, but it does come up. Sometimes it makes the difference. After a board wipe, if you have creature lands, you know, you're able to do damage after that board wipe, especially if it's on their turn. So I like Mutable for that turn. It has that immunity, and I appreciate that. Secondary synergy with this deck is with Robber of the Rich, 2-drop, and there we go. We're running 3 of those. So in the text here, it basically says, during any turn you attack with a rogue. Go back to Mutavault. Mutavault is all creature types. So Mutavault is a rogue. So if you got something juicy, exile with Robber of the Rich, your opponent killed your Robber of the Rich because they don't want you having access to it. If it becomes situationally advantageous for you to get that card back, you can put in your Mutavault and attack in with it. That happens occasionally, and it's kind of funny because it's just like a synergy that I honestly forgot about, and I probably would never have remembered in paper, but some of the things you can see on Arena is you actually have the option to play the card when you attack in with Mutavault after Robber of the Rich. Okay, back to mana bases. I love to ramble. Mishra's Foundry. Okay, just another semi-cheap creature, instant creature, so 2/2 for 2. And if you have multiples, and I'm running 3 of these, or excuse me, I'm running 2 of these, if I happen to have the 2 of them, I get to buff them. And I get to do that occasionally. I'm kind of thinking I'm gonna add more Mishra's Foundries maybe, and maybe less Field of Ruins, which I have in my main board, and I think that's just a relic of when I was getting really pissed about mono green devotion, which is a big problem. Your deck will have trouble with mono green devotion. I actually had to go to the community on Reddit and ask about some ideas on how to handle it, and apparently I was going about it wrong. I was doing Field of Ruin to target that land that you get mana for depending on the number of devotion you have in your one color. God, that with the Planeswalker that untaps things, Kiora, and just all of the little dorky elves, it made my time quite irritated at times when I was losing to that deck. So Field of Ruin was my attempt at addressing that. I'm thinking that's going to come out soon, but that's why it's there. And occasionally I have some upside, you know, if I'm going to try and choke someone out on their multicolored lands or their triomes, or not a very good strategy, but if I don't have anything to do on turn 2 or 3 sometimes, I might do that. It'd be the earliest turn 3. So Kenzin, Field of Defiance, Crucible of Defiance, that's in there just for the, you know, quick access to red, but also options for late game, not trying to flood. Here's a chump blocker more often than not, versus getting 1 or 2 more damage in. Very rarely is that scenario. The best use case typically is here's some quick chump blockers. The thing about these is that they actually don't have synergy with Torbran because they're colorless. And I took Mechanized Warfare out of the first edition of this deck because it just wasn't working, too slow on a 3-drop spot. but didn't even have synergy with Mechanized Warfare, which is some of the problems with having this in the standard deck. more so maybe some of the problems of mechanized warfare in the standard deck, trying to make that work, but just a note. Ramunap Ruins, we got 4 of those. We like this because, again, sometimes a lot of the games are going to require we do over-the-top damage, and this is one of the great ways to do it. Rarely am I ever getting to a point where I can do this more than once. I do also have Desert of the Fervent, which is a good cycle land. Sucks that it comes in tapped. You kind of have to be smart about your opening hand. You know, you might be letting go of some plays and you're not going to be hitting everything on turn 1, 2, and 3. I'm on the fence for removing this. I like the cycling ability for the late game flood, which I feel like is a bane of my existence sometimes. But this also has synergy with Ramunap Ruins as a target, and I would do that before I would sacrifice Ramunap Ruins. Just if the option arises, I could do this multiple times. Get rid of the Fervent, then get rid of the Ruins, because the Ruins can target itself as a desert, just to get that over-the-top damage. The unfortunate thing I found about this does not have synergy with Torbran. Maybe I just don't understand some of the nuanced rules of Magic, but even though I understood this as a red source, looks like a red land to me, it does not qualify. So even if Torbran's on the ground, this just does 2 damage. I don't know if that's an arena error or that's legit how it's supposed to be, but that is how it is on arena right now. I've had that come up a couple times. We got 8 mountains. 2 Deserts of the Fervents, we've talked about that. 4 Den of the Bugbears, which, you know, staple creature land, and it gives you some residual on the field after the fact. And it's red, so it synergizes with Torbran. I mean, these could potentially get, you know, deal a lot of damage on an open field with Torbrans out. Those games are usually shut down immediately for the win for us. And last land, we have Shatter Skull, Smashing, and just the, again, variability. You know, play it as a land if you need. Play it as an instant land as well. Instant access to the mana base. You just pay 3 life. I appreciate that. And also, removal spell and a variable amount. I don't typically like the X removal spells, but honestly, sometimes you don't have any better options, and I have used that before. Especially for some pesky, you know, low drop creatures that just have abilities that feel broken, like that Siege Veteran. If that comes out and I have that out, you know, on turn, you need, the earliest that works is turn 5, right? Because it has to deal 3 damage. Or excuse me, turn 4, because it's a 2/2. But anyway, now let's go to the low end of our mana base. So Kumano faces Kakazan. Just a wonderful, in the sense that it's a 1-drop, it gives you a 2/2 in a few turns. It buffs up your 2-drop creatures, assuming you're playing this turn 1, or later, you know, if you have Torbran coming out turn 4, turn 5, this came into hand, play it on turn 3, turn 4. Or after Torbran, this is going to be dealing 3 for 1 to the face, and that's excellent. And if they have Planeswalkers, very, very prevalent in Explorer, Pioneer, this deals 3 to each of them. In addition, the value you get for 2 Planeswalkers out, for playing this for 1 red mana, it's insane when Torbran's out. It's pretty good when it's not out, so this is included. Play with Fire, we're only running 2 of these right now. I'm trying to figure out where I need to be in single removal. I don't like the card for card because too often do I feel like I am out of cards and they have a handful of cards. So we're trying to figure that out. Balancing removal, balancing card advantage, it's tricky. And balancing creatures, I feel like honestly this deck runs low on creatures for what we're trying to do. But we got 2 right now. Next, we're in the 2-drops already. Bitter Reunion. Just trying to see more cards, get more options. You know, I rarely have the need to use it for haste. I feel like most of the games we're dealing over the top damage if they don't have a board presence, and I feel like a lot of these decks are working to establish board presence as quickly as we are. So just seeing more cards, finding lands if we're having trouble hitting our 4th, 5th land drop. We really want to be hitting that consistently, so that's why we're a little bit higher on the number of lands for this deck. I'm going to put that Bitter Reunion back. We have Burning Hands. I actually main deck Burning Hands, which is honestly probably just me being salty about Mono Green Devotion, which I already talked about. But yeah, that's why Burning Hands is in there. I have a couple more in the sideboard, but we just put in 2 just in case if we're lucky. And you know, green is relevant in Explorer. I mean, obviously all the colors are, but yeah, I just like surprising them with this, especially when they pull out Kiora, they do the -1, and then I get to do this and kill Kiora, and they did the -1 on something that wasn't really that relevant because it was so early in the game. But anyway, I'm going to stop ranting about Mono Green Devotion. Our next one was Robber of the Rich. We have 3 of them, and just a nice hasty 2-drop with reach, so when you're dealing with angels or high number of flyers, this is usually going to be chump blocking. It's not really stopping much in the air as far as I'd be happy with trade. Sometimes that happens, but the best thing is when we get to use this extra ability of seeing their cards, getting the option to play their cards. That has caused a lot of rage quitting. When I get to use their Shieldred before they could, because we had access to it before they could, that understandably is quite irritating and can shut out a lot of games pretty fast. So I really do enjoy this card. I am at 3 because sometimes it comes out and when the board state is that they're established and we're trying to find ways over the top, this is not it. So 4 felt like a bit much. We brought it down to 3. Roiling Vortex. I don't know what that word is. Roiling. Almost like boiling, but not. Whatever. Enchantment. Okay, why have we included this? Because the life gain decks are irritating and sometimes very fast. I mean, the 1-drop cleric that gets you life whenever something else joins, and then that 2-drop rare that's in standard right now that just gets a +1/+1 anytime you gain life. Roiling Vortex is highly needed to keep the game moving toward the end goal of their down to 0 on life, but also protecting me in situations of, keeping them from gaining life. I have many creatures that prevent life gain. I feel like that's, if not the primary, then the secondary theme of this deck is life gain denial. And I love saying that because life gain is so infuriating as a red player. And this is just, I have access to it all the time. I just have to be diligent and always make sure I have 1 mana source open to activate because it requires the activation. And I've made the mistake of, it's not colorless, it has to be red. I've made that mistake, and I've also made the mistake of not leaving it open, and in 1 turn, the chain reaction that can be 1 creature entering the battlefield on life gain, and life gain triggers, and it will end your game if you are not able to control that. So this is my way of staying in those games and really annoying them. Because when you deny a life gain player life gain, sometimes they just quit immediately. If they see a second source of life gain denial, they'll quit. Next, we have Burning Tree Emissary. So Burning Tree. This is our only violation of mono red, kind of. I mean, it depends on how you feel about colors. Depends on how you feel about the split cost. This is really, it's still a red creature. It's also a green creature, but I found this card because I was finding that I was really behind on ramping. And on turn 2, when I'm able to put this down, put another one of these down, and then put Robber of the Rich, and they have 1 land and nothing on the board, people have quit on that, and that's fun to execute and see happen. So I've been greedy and I have 4 of these, but again, the late game is annoying because sometimes this doesn't work. Also, the colorless mana base doesn't work well with this because double red, you're not hitting this on turn 2, maybe turn 3 if you're lucky, but again, it's kind of the trouble we fall into. So we're figuring that out, but right now we're keeping 4. On to our 3 drops, Bone Crusher Giant. We only have 1 right now, but we would have more because, again, variability and options. This is kill spell, 2 for 2, but Torbran makes it 4. Love that. And also it's the creature, and that creature has the ability to deal damage if it's getting targeted, so against black, that comes up a lot. And, Torbran's out, usually they're going to want to deal with Torbran. I've actually never seen it that they deal with this before they deal with Torbran if it's the removal spells that do any, if it's the deal 3, sure, they'll do this before Torbran. But I'm on a rant again. This has great synergy with another card. We're going to jump to it in our 5-drop spot, Quakebringer. And we found this card because of the life game denial. But it has been quite interesting. I never see anyone else playing this amount of it, and it's a lot of fun to play. Because, if you don't have anything to do on turn 2, foretell it. And then on turn 4, you get it out, and it's dealing 2 over the top every turn, every one of your turns. Plus, it deals another 2 for any one of these that are in the graveyard. And if this is in the graveyard, and I have the giant out, Bone Crusher Giant, then it's dealing 2 from the graveyard. So this card feels great with Bonecrusher Giant, which Bonecrusher Giant has high prevalence in the meta in mono red. When we mirror match, we see that card almost every time. Never see Quakebringer, and it has some interesting value. I just love denying life gain, and the fact that it could punch from the graveyard over the top, I feel great about that. Back to our 3-drops, we have quite a few. 3-drops are thick, and our next one is Brotherhood's End. And I love this card sometimes because we have a lot of creatures that can be immune to this. And basically, we're Torbran. You do this before. I mean, the asymmetricalness of this is amazing. It's a board wipe, technically, kind of, right? But when Torbran's on the field, it's only doing 3 to Torbran. It's doing 5 to everything else on the other side of the field, which almost takes care of anything. The problem that comes up is against mono green, those big creatures, 6 toughness, that is irritating. But that, sometimes that happens. Anyway, very good card to catch up if you're behind on board presence. Take their creatures away, and then we're starting from scratch. Hopefully they don't have any more creatures in their hand. That's very fun. Artifact decks, there is this runaway Voltron artifact deck that is just ridiculous. And sometimes this is the only thing that can save me. And it is, when I am able to use the second ability to destroy all artifacts with mana value 3 or less, the artifact decks rage quit on that. And because they can't recover from that. They put all their, Voltron on the 1-drop haste artifact that, I don't know, the little gingerbread boy that just runs up and does nonsense damage on you. That's why I like Brotherhood's End. Okay, next 3-drop. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Okay, we got this for value. I mean, you get 2 creatures and you get to see more cards, all for 3 mana. I think that's hard to miss out on. The treasure token possibilities as well, helping ramp. Love that. I mean, they have to spend a removal spell to get rid of that 2-drop, that 2/2. So that's why it's here. Honestly, we're having a lot of fun with it. Up next is Giant Cindermaw. This is from the newest set. I think this is just easy access life gain denial, and the fact that it has trample is fun. It's only dealing 4. Usually, the toughness that I'm seeing that's blocking this is 2, 3 more often than that. So, and then power to meet it is at least 3. So, not great, but we have methods of buffing this, and the trample, it's nice occasionally on those games that are like, we just barely are there. Let's finish it off. This is nice for that reason. The older brother, in my opinion, and it's funny how they're both kind of dinosaurs. I do like that. Rampaging Ferociodon. And I've seen this in some decks. I've seen this in the Eidolon decks, which I have Eidolon in the new iteration of this deck that I'm working on loosely. We got some other things in the pipeline for January. But this I love because when Torbran is out and this is out, every creature that comes in is dealing 3 over the top. This is ridiculous. And it can't gain life, and it has menace, all for 3. I love Rampaging Ferociodon, and I'd have more if I had more wild cards. So that's what this is doing here. It's a lot of fun. We actually, when I took it out of my standard deck because Cut Down was far too prevalent. And the equivalent of Cut Down in the Pioneer Explorer meta, I'm sure, is the whatever that 1-drop is that you can, I think it's mana value 2 or less or mana value 3 or less if lost life this turn, whatever it's called, Fatal Push. This is actually okay because I feel like black is less of the pool of decks that you experience in Explorer compared to Standard, and therefore Stormseeker does work, especially when you hit it in the 3-drop spot, on turn 3, and then your Quakebringer that you foretold on turn 2 is coming out fast. Your Torbran is coming out swinging on turn 4. This ups the heat. And when they're blue and they don't want to play spells, or they're blue-white and they don't want to play spells, fine. We'll start making things have trample. And that makes them quit the game too. When they're basically handing you the benefit of nighttime. So appreciate that. That's been a lot of fun to play. And that finishes games sometimes with the trample ability on the nighttime, I will add. Tybalt. Tybalt, we actually started strong on Tybalt. When I found Tybalt, he's an uncommon, so I had wild cards galore. So I was like, yes, gimme. And I started with 3, but I've taken them down to just 1. I find that if they have any sort of flying, I'm effectively spending 3 mana for 1 devil token. Ouch, not good. If they're ground-based, this tends to do better. The fact that they don't have an answer for it right away, they basically have to waste an attack to kill this. But I'm having these devils act as blockers, and when Torbran's out, it's ridiculous with the devil tokens. I mean, they deal 3 on Clash and then 3 wherever I want based on the death trigger. It's really fun to have these devils out and play, and that's why I do have Burn Down the House in the sideboard. I can't mainboard it. It does feel too cloggy. It slows it down too much, but I do like the devils. And the whole reason I haven't mentioned it is life gain denial. That's why Tybalt's on the board. That's why Tybalt's here. More life gain denial. I love to shut down life gain. I love seeing that little pulsating red circle around your card that's denying them life, and they're just irritated. I know they are. All right, Hazoret, the Fervent. 4-drop, it's a god, and I love the god subtype. I think they're so cool, and this is indestructible, and I love that it's indestructible because, I could lay down, Brotherhood's End's not touching this anyway, but this has so many applications being indestructible. It's so annoying. First of all, it's just, it's tricky. You have to have the conditions that you don't have any cards in hand, and guess what? We're playing mono red. It happens a lot. We don't have other cards in hand. I honestly, of all the games I've played, I've never used a second ability. I don't know if I'm really missing out. It's 2 damage and I'm losing a card. I don't really have anything that wants to be in the graveyard. Maybe I should look into more disturb sort of card effects, but I don't really think it's worth that much build around. It is just a 1 of 1 in my deck right now. Again, wild cards. Maybe I'd go up to 2. I think I'm much interested in this next one though, which I've been talking about a bunch. Torbran. I will go up to 3. Will I go up to 3? Actually, I'm at 2. I don't know why I'm at 2. I should be at 3. I think it becomes a bit of a problem when I have that many. I must have dropped it for whatever reason. But, yes, Torbran. And it deals that much damage plus 2 if it's a red source. Beautiful. Mwah. Chef's kiss. Shuts down games. Requires attention immediately. Please kill me is what it says when it comes onto the board, especially when we have many other permanents here to take advantage of that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ability. So that's Torbran. Quakebringer we've talked about, and again, a lot of fun. Recommend it. Hardly played. And then Embercleave, our final card that we're going to talk about. This was one that I've basically, I love when I get to play mirrors because I get to learn from them. And oftentimes, if I'm winning, I'm not going to, all right, nothing to learn there. But if I lose to them, I'm like, how did I lose that? And Embercleave is one of the happiest ways I've ever lost because it has taught me a lot about what this card means. Again, let me give you context. I've only been playing this game for 4 or 5 months, and I'm excited about it. I love it. And Embercleave is one of the cards that make me very excited about it because when I'm able to attack on turn 4 with 2 creatures and surprise them with Embercleave, the number of quits that you get in response to Embercleave is very satisfying, and therefore I very much recommend it. It's a ton of fun. But that is this month. Oh, I didn't go over the sideboard. The sideboard's, all right, so really, how did we do this? We did best of 1 for the most part, and then we did best of 3 when we were closing it off in Diamond, occasionally doing some best of 1s depending on how much time I had. So it was a mix, but let's look at the sideboard. So it's not really refined. So I have Flame Blessed Bolt. That's just if I need more exile effects. A Braid, that's for artifact problems. Tybalt, that's if they don't have flyers and they don't really, they have life gain denial. I need more ways of doing that. Karn Silex, if they're building out a board way faster than I am, or they just have things that I can't really touch otherwise, Karn Silex helps us do it. We have no way of touching enchantments except Karn Silex. That's colorless, so Mono Red has that. Achilles heel, definitely. Burn Down the House. Mwah. We love this, especially when Torbran's out. Ooh, those 3 little devils are dirty. They deal 6 on, I've already said it. I've already said it in other videos. They're just wonderful. Burning Hands, Obliterating Bolt, we need the exile effect, especially that dirty, dirty, dirty Grease Fang. Ooh, hate that Grease Fang. those decks. Memorial to War, that one's, again, that came from the strategy of trying to blow up Nykthos, but this is horrible. I mean, spending 5 and tapping this, I just got to get this out of there. And actually in the new version, that's already out. So this was just what we crossed the finish line with. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts were. Let me know what you would do different. Let me know what you run in your mono red deck. Let me know how this deck is trashy or whatever you want. I'm enjoying all your comments whenever you do comment about what you think about the different decks. I love the community of try this card and try that card, and building these decks are so much fun. I think for January, I stumbled upon a Cleric's standard deck that I don't think anyone is playing, and those are the decks I love. It's Orzhov, it's red, blah, 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 not red, it's white, black, so it's a lot of fun. It bases itself around Ritual, Priest, whatever. It's a horrible card from Dominar United. It's a rare that nobody played in Dominar United, but I'm trying out in Standard, so it's going to be a lot of fun, hopefully. We'll see how it goes. The games are a little longer, which reminds me why I even went to Mono Red in the first place, is I can't do long games, especially on Arena when people are roping all the time, and it's so annoying. I don't know if they're intentional or they just take that long to think, but anyway, thank you for watching the video. I appreciate it. There'll be more to come. I'll be better about posting them. Take care, guys.